Hey everyone, it's the Cinema Dude, and welcome back to my channel. And today we are not in the movie room, not in the kitchen, but in the living room this week to look at my different books. As you can tell, I have a decent amount. We're going to be starting from the bottom and going all the way to the top this week. And just going to go briefly through some stuff. Have a lot of books either based on different genres, art books, concept art, directors, and things like that. So let's hop right in. I also have other things kind of mixed into, as I have some comic book graphic novels in here. This one is a Stephen King book. Not really a lot about his movies per se, more about the stories and things like that, but there are a few things in there. The Cinematic Universe guidebook goes kind of briefly into stuff about the movies, more goes into, okay, this character was from this issue and things like that. Kind of cool. I think they have a few more of these, but this is the only one I have. This one I got at the Dollar Tree, and it is a called a Kim Jong-il production, and it's about the story of the filmmaker that they kidnapped to make Paul Gasari, and kind of the whole story, and the story of him and the star that they kidnapped as well. Oh, there's one of my cats. And kind of like the story of them escaping as well. So kind of cool. And then this kind of section right here is all different, either movie magazines or movie books. We have the Muppet movie kind of storybook. I don't know really what you call that. Kind of goes more into like explaining the movie, but that's really it. Again, so stuff on Bruce Lee, stuff on Indiana Jones, Star Wars stuff, some Entertainment Weeklies, a retro magazine, some Star Wars, some Monster Bash magazines with really cool art on them. Let's see, what else we got? Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine, some Avengers stuff, some different, a Wizard. That's actually Wizards magazine, kind of funny. I had this when I was a kid, and then got rid of it because it was when Pokemon was coming out and really big. And I was able to find this at a local bookstore, and it was like, I don't know, $1. And I was like, oh my God, I had this one. But the really cool thing about this one is this mega movies, over 50 comic book movies. So if you see like different movies, like they talk about the next Star Wars film. So this is from 99. So they talk about like episode 2, but then they also talk about, oh, in production is Iron Man and this film, but they don't have any like casting stuff. So it's like really, really cool to see like how far some of these movies were going back and being made and ideas and such. So kind of cool that I have that now again. Some more movie magazines, some Halloween kind of ones and stuff. Then we swing over to kind of the Star Wars section. We have let's see, one making of book, which is the Phantom Menace one. And then I have a whole bunch of the visual dictionaries. Used to like these as a kid. So I have the original one, and then the prequel ones, and then a few, let's see. The only one I don't have is Solo. But I have Rogue One, I got Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker. So I always try to usually pick those up with there. I do have a few of the art of books. Kind of stopped at these ones, so I'm missing a bunch. I know they have the Mandalorian one out as well. But again, always kind of cool to see especially with these art of books, the concepts that they were toying with, and you know what they use, what maybe got pushed to another movie. So I always kind of like those. Ultimate Indiana Jones Guide, I've showed that in the Indiana Jones video, and then a Star Wars trivia book. So that's like the bottom shelf. These are kind of ones I don't look at as much, but still kind of cool to have. Then we pop up here. Let me go from here. And we start getting into kind of genre stuff, and a whole bunch of, this is kind of like the monster movie area. The Creature Chronicles is kind of a cool book. Goes into the makings of the Creature from the Black Lagoon, but then it also has some discarded stuff that they did. So they go into not only those, but kind of the knockoffs and stuff that wasn't made and things like that. So that's kind of a cool book to have. You know, the top 100 movies kind of books. Oh, you know, here's the ones that you guys should see. They're okay. You know, very like, oh, you definitely know what the top 10 are. But they do have some surprises in here, which is kind of cool, especially the horror movie one. Kind of cool art on them as well. So those are that. Sleaze Creatures is a movie book about obscure. It's obscure back then, but I feel like now some of these movies are becoming more and more known. But just from that period of monster movies, so kind of cool. Sometimes a lot of these books kind of do cross over. Like this one and You Won't Believe Your Eyes have a few that are in there. So a book about King Kong. This one is actually really cool too. This goes up to Peter Jackson's version, but again goes through the history of King Kong, goes through stuff that like what Willis O'Brien was working on prior to helping with Kong, and then unused concepts, again knockoffs and things like that. So they go into like Mighty Peking Man in there. So really kind of cool book if you like King Kong. Definitely recommend this one. This is kind of like my giant monster area. So we got giant movie monsters that kind of go into a whole host of them, not just, you know, Godzilla and King Kong, but, you know, all the giant bug movies and things like that. The art of Japanese monsters is kind of a cool little one. These books by this author sometimes do go for pretty expensive. So if you can pick up some of these, definitely do, but all different movie posters and such. Collecting movie monsters is, I want to say this is from the 90s, but definitely shows different toys and stuff from that era and stuff. You're like, oh, I remember that toy, or I had that toy. So this is one of my probably cherished books in my collection, is this official Godzilla Compendium book. I used to get this out of the library a lot as a kid. And now some of the stuff definitely isn't factually correct, or it only goes up to Godzilla versus Destroya. But it is really kind of cool book. If you like Godzilla movies, it kind of has posters and talks about the movies. Again, like I said, not everything is correct in it, but for, you know, a book that came out in the 90s, definitely something that was really cool to have. And so book about the Ghostbusters, kind of a visual, kind of like the books down here, but for Ghostbusters. It came from Bob's Basement, is Bob Burns, actor and kind of horror movie historian. It's all kind of stuff that he owns, which is really kind of cool. He has like the cane from the Wolfman. He has like one of the original Time Machine props, so it's really kind of cool to see what he has. A movie poster book, another movie poster book. Let's see. This one is kind of, there's a whole like series of these books all about monster movies and stuff, talks about them and things. This is about Burt I. Gordon. I met him at Monster Bash one year, and he signed the inside of this. Kind of cool. A book about the production of Back to the Future. These next 3 books are all by the same author, and they go into Japanese giant monster films, camera movies, Godzilla movies. This one is kind of a cool reference book too, because this one goes into either fan films, unmade films, films that were made but then lost. So some of the early King Kong ones that they were doing in Japan, like King Kong and Edo. So kind of cool. This one is a Binging with Babish book about like movie recipe books. A book about movie recipes. Let's try that one. So kind of cool to see and how to make some of them. So it like has like the sauce and the whole dinner scene from Goodfellas that they have in prison. They have that kind of recipe and stuff. If you like Hammer horror, I would definitely recommend this book. The Hammer films, an exhaustive filmography. This one's really cool. Goes through all their movies. My only thing with my version, I don't know why, but there are a few pages where they're like, the pages are like, were printed like this. They're like diagonal. So like you don't get all of them. Not that bad. You still can tell what titles they are, but you don't get everything in it. Let's see. I'll just move that. You Won't Believe Your Eyes, like I said, is about, again, 50s, 60s science fiction films. Oh, it's only in the 50s. I thought it was 60s, but again, kind of cool. Explains some stuff. Strange cinema is just kind of weird movies, cult movies type thing. Slasher films, again, talks about slasher movies. The Art of Hammer is, let's see, let me go with that. Just goes into different movie posters of Hammer films and stuff. That one's a really cool one that I have. Monsters in the Movies. This one was done by John Landis. It is kind of cool, and I want to see if anybody has this, comment below. Check in there, because my version of it, there are like a lot of mistakes I found in the book, and it's not like factual mistakes. It's almost like they were printing it and they messed up. Like, so like they might be talking about, I don't know, take an example, a werewolf movie, and they're talking about it, and like the sentence just ends, but it's like in the middle of the page, so it's not like it was like cut off at the end of the page. It's just like not there and stuff, or like some of the stuff doesn't make sense, or it's like, oh, here's this monster, and, you know, here's Freddy Krueger, but it's a picture of Jason Voorhees. So if you guys have that book, see if that was, if maybe it's just like the first edition of it, or if it's something that is continuing through all of them. Roger Corman book goes through some of his different movies. Another monster movie book. A one on action movies. We have a James Bond book here of movie posters. A Warner Brothers animation. This Harryhausen book is kind of cool. Goes through his different kind of storyboards and stuff for his different movies. But what's really cool about this too is it has unused concepts too. So it has some of the unused concepts from War of the Worlds that he was going to do. So it is kind of really, really cool to see some of that kind of stuff in there. All right. Then we'll come up here. And another movie poster book. 2 books about the drive-ins. This one goes into more of the history of it. And this one is more of posters of it. This one's a kind of a cool book. Just very brief history of drive-in, but really kind of cool one. I like going to the drive-in, so it's kind of cool one to have. A Mexican movie book goes, again, not just into horror movies, but all types of Mexican cinema. This one is another one I can't recommend enough. Any Gun Can Play. If you're a big spaghetti western fan, definitely try to seek out this book. This one I think can be a little expensive, but it goes into everything about the genre. The beginnings, the heyday of it, and then the decline of the spaghetti western, goes into different characters. If the character was popular like Django or Sartana, they would have all these knockoffs films or unofficial films. So really kind of cool reference book. Some more genre books: the screwball comedy, romantic movies, gangster films. 1001 Movies Before You Die, another cool book that goes from like the beginning of cinema to, I forget which version this is. It might be the 2015 version maybe. And so it has different movies that you really should see. Which is another movie facts book. The Art of the B-Movie. This is actually my newest one in my collection. This one goes over not only like B-movie horror films, like the Giallos and things like that, but also goes into exploitation. So blaxploitation, sexploitation, martial arts, just regular exploitation films. So really kind of cool book. Definitely surprised me in that, because at first I thought it was just going to be, horror movies and stuff. But it goes in depth of different categories and stuff. Kind of cool. This is the Looney Tunes book, although not really movie based. But this goes into all of the different cartoons of Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies. And like I've said before, when I talk about how many have gotten released, it could be about that much. Where my thumb's length worth of stuff hasn't been released yet. So kind of a cool reference guide by Jerry Beck, who also did the other one down there. So really cool ones to have in my collection. This Twin Peaks book, got at the dollar store. Kind of cool. Paperbacks from Hell. Not really movie related, but if you like horror movie books from the 70s and 80s, there are some that did get made into some, like The Nest, and they talk about Carrie and those kind of books, but kind of cool. And I've said it cool a lot in this video. Cult flicks and trash picks. This one is from like the late 90s, early 2000s. It goes into movies like Eraserhead and John Waters films and things like that. So this is when kind of cult films were kind of cult films, if that makes sense. I feel like nowadays people say, oh, that's a cult movie. And it's like, it's not really, because it's more mainstream and people like it and stuff. So definitely check that out if you like those kind of stuff. Some just scholarly books on cinema, some martial arts films books. This one goes into the 70s stuff, although they are missing some stuff, and I don't know if it's just because it was like based in just a certain area, but like I feel like they're missing some Bruceploitation films from that era. I could be wrong, and where it's just they were released later on and stuff. So more movie poster books, a science fiction one. We're gonna stop right here at this one. Keep Watching the Skies by Bill Warden. I have to say, if you guys like science fiction, if you like classic science fiction, this is an absolute book to get. I cannot recommend this book enough. This book, I mean, this thing is... Oop, that one fell. But this one, if this one fell, this one would probably make a dent in the floor, because that's how... I mean, it's literally like phone book size. I mean, this thing is so cool. It goes into pretty much... I don't think they're missing any. I mean, again, like I said, a book this thick. Goes into the science fiction films of, now mind you, American science fiction films of the 50s. So it starts from an Abbott and Costello stuff and goes all the way, till the end. But it does go in alphabetical order, so it's not more year-wise, just that, but it is exhaustive. It goes into, talks about the films, talks about the plot, talks about who is in there, talks about some production history if, there was some to learn about, tells, if they recommend it, tells if it's on released. Now, mind you, but books like this, when something says released, at the time it might not be, but then it, eventually did. But kind of very cool artwork on the cover and throughout the different, I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit of the different monsters from the 50s. And I always like this picture too, because just to see the amount of different movie monsters. You got the War of the Worlds, you got the monster that challenged the world, the giant claw. You have, let's see, Forbidden Planet, Robot Monster, Colossus of New York. So a whole host of things, them and things of that. So really, really cannot recommend this. This book, I don't know. It when I got it, it was expensive. And that was, I think, before. Now I could be 100% wrong, but I believe I read somewhere that the author of this book passed away. But this book is just, can't recommend it enough. So if you can find a good copy of it, I would highly, highly recommend it. I do wish more authors would go into the deep dive of things. Like, I wish there was a sequel to this of the 60s horror films, or even 70s horror films, or maybe European horror, or things like that. Just the amount of dedication and stuff into that is so good. So cannot recommend this book enough. And then we'll swing over here. Another genre book about film noir. This actually got before I got really into film noir, but really cool book. Another one I can't recommend enough. It has a foreword by Eddie Muller, who works at TCM and does Noir Alley. Kind of goes into different categories, like alienated ones, shadowed, kind of those different themes, and then kind of breaks up the different movies and stuff. So really kind of cool. Definitely check this one out. The TCM books, highly recommended. They're really packed, nice coffee table books. They have a pre-code one that's kind of a cool one too, that I've read before. Don't have it in my collection, but I've just seen it. And then we'll finish up at the top. I have a Back to the Future novelization. Just some, there's Guillermo del Toro pop vinyl. Have some other books there. These two, of course, are two of my favorite books. But they are also two made into movies. Of course, the classic To Kill a Mockingbird, with Gregory Peck as Atticus Finch, and then Shoeless Joe, which was the basis of Field of Dreams. And then we finish up this area. This is kind of my director's area. We have the famous Hitchcock Truffaut book, where they kind of interview each other. They go into discussing about cinema, where they see it going, where they've, who they've inspired, who inspired them, and really cool. And then, looking at their different movies and such. I have a CinemaScope magazine right there that has different articles about different directors. These three right here, the Bergman, Wells, and Fellini books, I got at the Museum of Moving Images, excuse me, in Astoria, New York. And these ones are kind of cool coffee table books, kind of goes into the different movies, and then goes into kind of like their life and stuff too. I mean, very brief, but really kind of cool. The Wells one is my favorite of the three. Films of Akira Kurosawa, again, goes into kind of his movies, talks about them, talks about production on them, and goes from them. That one is the third edition of that one. I think they have an updated one. Then to finish it off, we have Great film directors. This one I got at Barnes & Noble, like, for super cheap. I think it was, like, one of those, like, in that section, it's, like, I don't know, under $10 or whatever. Again, goes into different filmmakers, goes into very briefly their films, but kind of cool. Just kind of cool little coffee table book. And then I will finish up today with A Year of Hitchcock. So this is 52 weeks with the master of suspense. Goes from his earliest silent films all the way to his last film. The author watched, like it says, a movie a week. Talks about the different themes that run through it, the plot, who's in it. A really kind of cool little book. Highly recommend that one as well. If you like Hitchcock films, it's kind of neat to see the different concepts and themes that run through all of his movies, how some of them started at the beginning and he just progressively evolved them to the point where you get to, North by Northwest, and it becomes, an all-time classic of cinema. So very kind of cool. So everyone, that is, my movie books about movies and stuff. So have a lot of them. Like I said, a lot of genre ones. If you have any, tell me what you guys have. Recommend any in the comments. Definitely ones I should pick up. Ones that you like to see, that you were thinking about picking up. But like I said, definitely highly recommend. Keep watching the skies. But yeah, so those are my movie books. So I hope everyone has a great week. And everybody's doing well out there. Thank you all again for watching. I really do appreciate that I'm now up to 200 subscribers. I'm so glad that you guys are enjoying the videos I'm making. Like I said, I'm just doing this for fun. And so even 200 subscribers, it's not anything crazy to some people. But you know what? To me, I think that's really cool and stuff. So, but I really do appreciate it. I want to thank all of you. Next week, we are going to be looking at Dollar Tree pickups. Again, Dollar Tree had their stuff. We got a whole bunch of horror films in that. And possibly, depending on when it comes, the new Dune set. That might be added to that video, or I might push it off to the week after, and we'll talk about that. So, again, thanks everybody for watching. And remember, be kind and rewind. We'll see you all next week.